Okay, everybody, we're going to get started. All the ladies, cover your heads. And we're going to stand and face Jerusalem.
Trust in the Lord.
Trust in the Lord.
And do good.
And do good.
So shalt thou dwell in the land.
So shalt thou dwell in the land.
And verily thou shalt be fed.
And verily thou shalt be fed.
Delight thyself also in the Lord.
Delight thyself also in the Lord.
And he shall give thee.
And he shall give thee.
The desires of thine heart.
The desires of thine heart.
Commit thy way.
Commit thy way.
Unto the Lord.
Unto the Lord.
Trust also in him.
Trust also in him.
And he shall bring it to pass.
And he shall bring it to pass.
And he shall bring forth thy righteousness.
And he shall bring forth thy righteousness.
As the light.
As the light.
And the judgment.
And the judgment.
As the noonday.
As the noonday.
Rest in the Lord.
Rest in the Lord.
Wait patiently for him.
Wait patiently for him.
Fret not thyself.
Fret not thyself.
Because of him who prospereth in his way.
Because of him that prospereth in his way.
Because of the men.
Because of the men.
Who bringeth wicked devices to pass.
Who bring wicked devices to pass.
Cease from anger.
Cease from anger.
And forsake wrath.
And forsake wrath.
Fret not thyself in any wise to do evil.
Fret not thyself in any wise to do evil.
For evildoers.
For evildoers.
Shall be cut off.
Shall be cut off.
But those that wait upon the Lord.
But those that wait upon the Lord.
They shall inherit the earth.
They shall inherit the earth.
This reading was taken from Psalms 37, 3 through 9. May the Lord add a blessing of the reading, doing, as well as hearing of his word. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Israel's Church of the Living God. I'm Brother Rodney, and Brother Caleb will be reading today. We'll be doing a lesson today. The Lord's Passover or Easter. You decide. The Lord's Passover or Easter. You decide. Because this is the time of the year for the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. In fact, we're in the middle of the Feast of Unleavened Bread right now. The 14th day of the first month is the Passover. The 15th day is what? The Feast of Unleavened Bread. And so we're in the middle of the Feast of Unleavened Bread right now. And so, and then tomorrow is going to be, people call what? Easter. Which we're going to find out that what that really is. Is that from God or is that from man? You decide. Is the Passover from God or is it from man? You decide. So, I guess I'll say this disclaimer real quick. I'm not here to, discredit nobody or, talk about no particular church or nothing. We're just going to deal with the Passover and we're going to deal with Easter today. And then you make a decision on what you want to do, how you want to worship the Lord. Okay? But I can tell you, Easter ain't the way. Anyway, let's go now. Let's go first to Exodus, the 12th chapter. We're going to do a brief recap of the Passover. We're going to do a brief recap of the Passover. All right, let's go to Exodus 12th chapter. Exodus 12, and we're going to pick it up at verse 11. Man, I'm boring already. Exodus 12 and 11. Exodus 12 and 11. Everybody got it?
Amen.
Go ahead and read that.
And thus shall ye eat it with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover.
It is the Lord's Passover. And that's what we're going to deal with today. We're going to show you the Lord's Passover, and we're going to show you Easter, and then you make the decision on which one you want to keep. It is the Lord's Passover. Skip, because we're just doing a brief recap now. So skip down to verse 24, because we had the Passover, what, Sunday evening, didn't we? Verse 24, go ahead and read that.
And ye shall observe this thing for an ordinance to thee, and to thy sons forever.
Now you see that? Now we're talking about the Passover. He said you shall observe this as an ordinance for how long? Forever. This Passover is an ordinance forever. Go ahead and read.
That ye shall say, it is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, who passes over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses. And the people...
I'll tell you what, I think you skipped some. Read verse 25 again. Read verse 25.
25? And it shall come to pass when ye be come to the land which the Lord would give ye, according as he hath promised, that ye shall keep this service. And it shall come to pass when your children shall say unto you, what mean you by this service? That ye shall say, it is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses, and the people bowed their head and worship.
Now, so you know, he said you shall keep this Passover by ordinance for how long? Forever. Right? Because this is the night when the Lord passed over the children of Israel's houses that had the blood over the doorposts, right? They came under the blood, didn't they?
That's right.
Let's go now. Let's go to Matthew, the 26th chapter. Matthew 26. Because like I said, we're just doing a brief recap of the Passover. Matthew 26. And then we're going to get down into the intricacies of it. When Jesus gave you the Passover. When he reinstituted it. Matthew 26 and 1. Matthew 26 and 1. Go ahead and read it.
And it came to pass, when Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said unto his disciples, ye know that after 2 days is the feast of Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified.
Now, he's telling the people, telling his disciples that he's going to be betrayed and he's going to be crucified on the Passover. Why? Because the Passover lamb must die on the Passover. And Jesus is that lamb, isn't he?
Yes, sir.
So he said the Son of Man in 2 days going to be betrayed to be crucified. Let's go to John, the 19th chapter. John 19. And we're going to pick it up at verse 17. John 19 and 17. John 19 and 17. Go ahead and read.
And he bearing his cross went forth into a place called the place of a skull, which is called in the Hebrew Golgotha.
Now Jesus carried his cross down, so he's being crucified here. But go ahead and read though.
Where they crucified him and 2 other with him, on either side one, and Jesus in the midst. And
we're going to find out what that word midst means right there. We're gonna read that word midst a little later. But go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. On either side one, and Jesus in the midst. And Pilate wrote a title and put on the cross. And the writing was, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews.
See, a lot of people don't understand that, you know, Jesus is the King of the Jews. Because that's what he was born for, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
He was the King of the Jews.
Teach.
But go ahead and read.
20. This title then read many of the Jews, for the place where Jesus was crucified was nigh to the city. And it was written in the Hebrew and Greek and Latin.
Go ahead.
Then said the chief priests of the Jews to Pilate, write not the King of the Jews, but that he said, I am King of the Jews. Pilate answered, what I have written, I have written.
He said, what I wrote down, that's it. But go ahead, though.
23. Excuse me. Then the soldiers, when they had crucified Jesus, took his garments and made 4 parts, to every soldier a part, and also his coat. Now the coat was without seam, woven from the top throughout.
So this must have been an expensive coat here, because look what they say. Go ahead.
They said therefore among themselves, let us not rend it.
They said, we ain't going to tear the coat up. You know, but they said this just so the prophecy could be fulfilled, though. Go ahead and read.
Let us not rend it, but cast lots for it, whose it shall be. that the scriptures might be fulfilled.
Go ahead.
Which saith, they parted my raiment among them, and for my vesture they did cast lots. These things therefore the soldiers did.
Now let's go to Psalms, the 22nd chapter. We're going to read this because all the things that happened to Jesus was already prophesied in the prophets. It was already prophesied in the prophets. That's why we keep the Passover, because you go back to the prophets and see where the Lord instituted the Passover, and then you go right back to the gospel where Jesus is in the gospel and see where he reinstituted the Passover.
Teach.
We don't see him instituting no Easter. We don't see him instituting that, do we? We go on to Psalms 22 and 16. Psalms 22 and 16. I tell you what, let's read verse 1 first so we can see exactly who this is. Then we're going to skip down to verse 16. 22, I know I didn't have this in it, but we're going to read that 22 and 1 first. Go ahead.
My God, why hast thou forsaken me?
Go ahead.
Why art thou so far from helping me, and from the words of my roaring?
You see, they said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Isn't this what Jesus said on the cross?
Yes, sir.
So we know who we're dealing with now, don't we? You know, Jesus knew what was going to happen to him because he's the one who told the prophets to write it when he was Jehovah. He knew what was going to happen to him. Let's go now. Skip down to verse 16. Skip down to verse 16. Go ahead.
For dogs have compassed me.
And now he ain't talking about the four-legged dogs here. He's talking about the two-legged dogs. He said, for dogs have compassed me. Go ahead.
The assembly of the wicked have enclosed me.
See, the dogs not wicked. I mean, you know, they might bite you and all. That's only because, you know, that's what they, you know, minds tell them. You know. But dogs are not wicked. Men are wicked, right?
Come on, brother.
So we're talking about two-legged dogs right here, aren't we? For dogs have compassed me, the assembly of the wicked have enclosed me. Go ahead.
They pierced my hands and my feet.
Oh, we sure enough know who we're talking about now, don't we?
Yes, sir.
Because David's hands and feet weren't pierced. The father's hands and feet weren't pierced, were they?
No, sir.
He said, they pierced my hands and my feet. Go ahead.
I may tell all my bones.
Uh-huh.
They look and stare upon me.
Go ahead.
They part my garments among them.
Uh-huh.
And cast lots upon my vesture.
Now, didn't we just read this?
Yes, sir.
We just read this right over in John, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
He said they parted my garments among them and cast lots upon my vesture. See, everything that's written about the Lord has already been said in the Old Testament. It's already been prophesied. Let's go back to John the 19th chapter. John 19. We're going back to John the 19th chapter. I should have told you to hold your hand there. John 19, and we're going to pick it up. We're going to pick it up at verse 28. John 19 and 28. Everybody got it? Amen. Go ahead and read it.
After this, Jesus, knowing that all things were now accomplished.
See, he knew what was going to happen. He said, after this, Jesus, knowing that all things were now accomplished. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. That the scripture might be fulfilled, saith, I thirst. Now there was set a vessel full of vinegar, and they filled a sponge with vinegar, and put it upon hyssop, and put it to his mouth. When Jesus therefore had received the vinegar, he said, it is finished. And he bowed his head and gave up the ghost. The Jews therefore, because it was the preparation.
Now he said the Jews therefore, because it was a preparation. What day is the preparation then? If Jesus died on the Passover, then what day is the preparation? The Passover, ain't it?
Teach, brother.
Go ahead and read.
The Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day. For that Sabbath day was an high day.
Hold it. He said, for that, he said, the Jews, therefore, because it was a preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on what? The Sabbath day. For that Sabbath day was an high day. Now, wait a minute now. Now, you know, this looks a little different from the regular Sabbath day then, don't it? It said, for this Sabbath day was an high day. So now we're going to find out, what does it mean, high day. What are you talking about? Because you know most people look at this and say, well, okay, well then if he if he had to be come down off the cross on by the Sabbath day, then this must be Friday then. So now we got Good Friday now, which lets me know that they know what day the Sabbath day then done, don't they? That's how they get this Good Friday, because they saying that well he had to be down off the cross on by the Sabbath day, so you know we got to take him down on Friday. We had to come down on Friday then, which the whole world now who should know what day the Sabbath day is, then shouldn't they?
Make that plain.
Especially the ones that call themselves Christians. But we look at what day did Jesus die on? He died on the Passover, right? Well, what's the next day after the Passover? The Feast of Unleavened Bread. That's why the book called it a high day. Read that verse 31 again.
Yes, sir. 31.
Uh-huh.
The Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day, for that Sabbath day was an high day, besought Pilate that their legs might be broken, and that they might be taken away.
Now, so he said that Sabbath was a high day. You know, and the preparation day, that was the Passover. Let's go down. We're going to look at these some Sabbath days here. First, let's go to Exodus, the 31st chapter. Exodus 31. You know, because I was talking to brothers, they didn't understand that the feast days are high days or high Sabbath days. They just didn't understand that. Well, you know, they don't understand it because they never go to the Old Testament. See, their preacher done told them that they're New Testament Christians, so, you know, we don't go to the Old Testament. You got to go to the foundation first and understand what you're reading about in the Gospels.
Teach.
Exodus 31, and we're going to pick it up at verse 12. Exodus 31 and 12. Go ahead and read that.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep.
Now wait a minute now. So now that's got an S on it, don't it? So it said, Verily my Sabbaths you shall keep.
Yes, sir.
So we're not just looking at no weekly Sabbath right here. He said, Verily my Sabbaths you shall keep. Go ahead.
For it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am the Lord that doth sanctify you.
So he said it's a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord that doth what? Sanctify. I set you apart from everybody else when you keep these Sabbaths. See, if you don't keep these Sabbaths, then you're not sanctified from everybody else or set apart from everybody else. Let's go now. Let's look at some of these Sabbaths. Because that Sabbath had an S on it, didn't it?
Yes, sir.
We're going to Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. Leviticus 23. And here in Leviticus 23rd chapter, you can find all the Lord's Sabbaths right here. Well, we're just going to pick up a few of them. Let's we're going to Leviticus 23 and 24. Leviticus 23 and 24. Go ahead and read it.
Speaking to the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, in the first day of the month, shall ye have a Sabbath.
Wait a minute now. He said, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, in the first day of the month, shall ye have a Sabbath. Now, you know, this date, the 7th month, the first day of the month, that could fall on any day of the week.
Come on, make it plain.
You understand? It ain't going to necessarily fall on the 7th day of the week. This can fall on any day, depending on what time the new moon come in that month. Then that's how you get the first day of the month. But go ahead and read though.
Yes, sir.
In
the first day of the month shall ye have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, and holy convocation.
Oh, so the memorial of blowing of trumpets, that's a Sabbath? Yep. But it's also a feast day.
Yes, sir.
Just like the Feast of Unleavened Bread, that's a feast day, ain't it? That's a Sabbath.
Teach.
Go ahead and read though. What verse you at?
25.
Skip down to verse 27. Go ahead.
Also on the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be an holy convocation unto you.
Go ahead.
And ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord.
Go ahead.
And ye shall do no work in that same day. For it is the day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before the Lord your God. For whatsoever.
Skip down to verse 31. Skip down to verse 31. Go ahead.
31. Ye shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations.
Ooh,
in all your dwellings.
And all, because you know, you got some brothers say, well, we can't keep those feast days because we're not in the land. Well, what do he say right here? Ye shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in what? All your dwellings.
Yes, sir.
And look, we still talking about the Day of Atonement. Look what the Lord going to call this Day of Atonement, though. Go ahead and read.
32. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest.
Oh, this is a Sabbath too? The Day of Atonement is a Sabbath?
Indeed.
That's right. Feast for Unleavened Bread, that's a Sabbath. The blowing of the trumpet, that's a Sabbath. The Day of Atonement, that's a Sabbath. Go ahead and read, though.
Yes, sir. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your soul. In the 9th day of the month at even. From even unto even shall ye celebrate your Sabbath.
You shall celebrate your Sabbath. Skip down to verse 38. Let's look at one more. Go ahead.
38. Beside the Sabbaths of the Lord, and beside your gifts, and beside all your vows, and beside all your free will offerings, which ye give unto the Lord, also in the 15th day of the 7th month, when ye have gathered in the fruit of the land.
Now we're looking at the Feast of Tabernacles now. Go ahead.
When ye have gathered in the fruit of the land, ye shall keep a feast unto the Lord 7 days. On the first day shall be a Sabbath.
On the first day is a Sabbath.
And on the and on the 8th day shall be a Sabbath.
And on the 8th day is a Sabbath. What are we looking at? The Feast of Tabernacles or the Feast of Ingathering.
Yes, sir.
But you see what the Lord called it though? A Sabbath.
Yes, sir.
Just like the Feast of Unleavened Bread, that's a Sabbath. The Day of Atonement, that's a Sabbath. Memorial of the trumpets, that is a Sabbath. So when we read over the Exodus 31st chapter there, he said, you shall keep my Sabbaths with an S on it, then we know that we talking about more than just a weekly Sabbath now, don't we?
Teach.
And then when we get over to what we read over in John the 19th chapter, for that Sabbath wasn't high Sabbath. So now we know what we're talking about then, don't we? We're talking about the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is what? A high Sabbath.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, let's go to Deuteronomy the 32nd chapter. Deuteronomy, we're going to look at something else. We're going to deal back with that a little bit later. We're going to, let's go to Deuteronomy 32nd chapter. And we're going to pick it up at verse 8. We're going to just read verse 8. Deuteronomy 32 and 8. Because, you know, people think that, you know, I mean, it's kind of, I don't know how people think that, you know, it's only 12 hours in a day. And I know where they get it from. They try to say, well, we're going to read it too in John. What Jesus said, is there not 12 hours in a day? Yeah, but there's 12 hours in a night too, though, isn't it? Because a day consists of what? 24 hours. A day consists of 24 hours. So now, we at Deuteronomy 32 and 8. We're going to deal with something else here. Because, you know, people got a problem with that 3 days and 3 night thing. So I'm going to show you what a day consists of. Okay? Deuteronomy 32 and 8. Go ahead.
When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel.
He set the bounds according to the what? The number of the children of Israel. Well, how many tribes of Israel are there? 12. So you got 12 months in a year, don't you?
Yes, sir.
You got 12 hours in a day, don't you?
Yes, sir.
You got 12 hours in a night too, though, don't you?
Indeed.
12 gates on the temple. I'm going a little bit. But you understand what I'm saying, though? Everybody understand what I'm saying, right? We're dealing with 12 here. Yes, sir. Thank you. 12 disciples. Okay, so now, let's go to Genesis, the first chapter, where it started at. Let's go to Genesis 1. We're going to Genesis, the first chapter, where it started. Genesis 1, but we're going to pick it up at verse 5, though. Genesis 1 and 5. Now, remember something right here. We're looking at the very first day right here for man. On the very first day of the creation right here. So now, if you take the very first day of the creation, don't you have to start in, well, let's read first. Verse 5. Go ahead and read that.
And God called the light day, and darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day.
And the evening and the morning were the first day. We all right?
No.
Bear with us, technical difficulties, but we'll be right back here shortly.
Okay, so now read Genesis 1 and 5 again. Read that again.
Yes, sir. Verse 5. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night.
Go ahead.
And the evening and the morning were the first day.
And the evening and the morning were the first day. So the day started, God's day started what? In the evening.
Yes, sir.
But then there's a 24-hour cycle though, ain't it? So now you got to go from evening to evening to get one day, don't you?
Teach.
Now we're looking at the very first day of creation right here. Right? So now if I went from evening to evening, that's one day, ain't it?
Come on.
Then I got to start from the evening again to get to the next day, don't I?
Teach.
So now if I do that 6 times, what day am I at? I'm at then. I'm at Friday, ain't it? All right. Okay, if I go to the evening of Friday, don't I have to start in the evening of Friday, let's just say 6:01 to get to the next day? According to the scriptures?
Yes, sir.
So he said the evening and the morning were the first day, didn't he? Skip down to verse 8, go ahead.
And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning was the second day.
So he keeping it in sequence, isn't he?
Yes, sir.
The evening and the morning is the second day. Skip down to verse 13 and read it.
And the evening and the morning was the third day.
And the evening and the morning was the third day. And I can show you that the weekly cycle, 7-day weekly cycle, has never changed. We've never skipped a day.
That's right.
Never. So now, the evening and the morning was the third day, right? So you know, you got people think that it's only, the Jews, well, they kept only 12 hours in a day. I'm like, yeah, everybody kept 12 hours a day, but they also kept 12 hours in a night too. Because the evening and the morning was the first day, wasn't it? You gotta go from evening to the morning back to the evening to get 24 hours, don't you? Come on. I mean, people try to come up with all type of simplicity or crazy stuff to get around the word of God. Actually, they're trying to prove me wrong. That's all they're trying to do. That's really what they're trying to do. But anyway, let's go now. Let's go to John 11 chapter. Let's see where they got that from. John 11. It's only 12 hours in a day. Yeah, it's 12 hours in a day, but what about the night, though? We're at John 11 and 9. John 11 and verse 9. I mean, this is so simple, too. Look at what Jesus is going to say. 11 and 9. Go ahead and read that.
Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours in the day?
See, this is where they get this from. See, are there not 12 hours in a day? Yeah. yeah. But you have to have the evening first. According to the Bible, you got to have the evening first to get to the day, don't you? The evening and the morning was the first day. He said, are there not 12 hours in a day? Go ahead.
If any man walk in the day, he stumbleth not.
Go ahead.
Because he seeth the light of this world. But if a man walk in the night.
Wait a minute now. He said, but if a man walk in the night, why? Because the evening and the morning are the first day, aren't they? You got day and then you got night, don't you? He said, but if a man walk in the night, go ahead.
He stumbleth. Because there is no light in.
Because there's no light. But you see what Jesus said? He talking about the day and he talking about the night, isn't he? Let's go now. Let's go to Acts, the 2nd chapter. Acts 2. And we are going to pick it up at verse 15. Acts 2 and 15. Now this is Peter now. He's talking to these devout men from every nation under heaven. So we're going to Acts 2, and we're going to pick it up at verse 14. Yeah, pick it up at verse 14. Pick it up at verse 14. Go ahead.
But Peter, standing up with the 11, lifted up his voice and said unto them, Ye men of Judea, and all ye that dwell at Jerusalem, be this known unto you, and hearken to my words.
Go ahead.
For these are not drunken as ye suppose, seeing it is but the third hour of the day.
Oh, you see that? He said, these are not drunken, seeing it as you suppose, seeing it is the third hour of the day. Well, what's the third hour of the day? 9 a.m. That's the third hour of the day. The first hour of the day is 6, and then the third hour of the day is 9 a.m. Everybody understand that?
Come on.
We at 9 o'clock in the morning. Now, so Peter said he's not drunken as you suppose, seeing it's the third hour of the day. Let's go to Luke the 18th chapter. Luke 18, and we're going to pick up at verse 31. Luke 18 and 31. And I'm dealing with it like this for a reason. Because we got something coming. We're going to read some scriptures here, and then we're going to already understand what we're dealing with. Luke 18, and we're going to pick it up in verse 31. Luke 18 and 31. Everybody got it? Go ahead and read that.
Then he took unto him the 12 and said unto them.
Read a little louder.
Then he took unto him the 12 and said unto them. Behold, we go up to Jerusalem, and all things that are written by the prophets concerning the Son of Man shall be accomplished.
Now you see that? the Lord tell him, everything that was going to happen to me is written in the prophets. Go ahead and read.
For he shall be delivered unto the Gentiles, and shall be mocked, and spitefully entreated, and spitted on. And they shall scourge him.
I'm sorry. We're supposed to be in Acts the 23rd chapter. I'm sorry, Acts 23. Why nobody pull my coattail on? Acts 23. Acts 23, and we're going to pick it up at verse 23. Acts 23 and 23. So Peter said, these men are not drunken as you suppose, seeing it's the third hour of the day, right? Acts 23 and 23. Go ahead and read that.
And he called unto him 2 centurions, saying, Make ready 200 soldiers to go to Caesarea, and horsemen 70, and spearmen 200.
Go ahead.
In the third hour of the night.
At the third hour of the night. So now what is that then? That's 9 o'clock p.m. then, ain't it? Peter said, these men are not drunken as you suppose, seeing it's the third hour of the day. That's 9 a.m. Now he's saying right here, the spearmen 200 at the third hour of the night. So that's 9 o'clock at night then, ain't it?
Come on.
You got the day and then you got the night. But the day started in the evening though, didn't they?
Yes, sir.
God's time started in the evening. So now, and these are Israelites that wrote this, ain't it?
Teach.
So now, where is it that the Israelites only kept the 12 hours in the day, and that was the whole day? Where is that at? And we see 12 hours in the night too, don't we? The Israelites wrote this. And that's kind of, that's kind of out there anyway. I'm going to be nice. That's kind of out there anyway to think that one day consists of only 12 hours. That's kind of out there, ain't it? You try your best to get around the Word of God. Some people try their best to get around the Word of God. You know that, don't you?
Come on, brother. Yes,
I mean, some scriptures are just plain. And to get them messed up, you got to be trying to go around the Word of God to mess them up. Let's go now. Let's go to Luke the 18th chapter. Now let's go to Luke 18. Luke 18, and we're going to pick it up. We're going to pick it up at verse 31. Luke 18 and 31. And we're going to deal with something else right here. And I'm just pretty much setting the groundwork. I'm just setting the groundwork. Luke 18 and 31. Go ahead and read.
Then he took unto him the 12 and said unto them, Behold, we go up to Jerusalem, And all things that are written by the prophets concerning the Son of Man shall be accomplished.
Go ahead.
For he shall be delivered unto the Gentiles, and shall be mocked, and spit, and spitefully entreated, and spitted on.
Now, you know, that took a lot for him to get spitted on and all that, didn't it? Because mama said he'd knock you out. You spit on somebody. But go ahead and read, though.
33. And they shall scourge him, and put him to death. And the third day he shall rise again.
And the third day he shall rise again. And the third day he shall rise again. Verse 34, go ahead.
And they understood none of these things.
See, the disciples didn't even understand what he was talking about. Because Peter told him, Lord, you ain't going to die. He said, get thee behind me, Satan. For thou savest not the things that be of God. So they didn't even understand what he was saying. And they shall scourge him and put him to death. And the third day he shall rise again. And they understood none of these things. They didn't even understand what Jesus was saying. And they're walking around with him. But go ahead and read, though.
Yes, sir. And they understood none of these things. And this saying was hid from them.
Go ahead.
Neither knew they that the things which were spoken.
See, so everything that the apostles said, everything that they said wasn't true. Because they didn't even understand this. You understand? Just like the circumcision. You know, the book say the stranger must needs be circumcised, didn't it?
Yes,
but what they do, they let them off the hook. But then Paul turned right around and did what though? Put them back on the hook and circumcised Timotheus.
Sure enough.
But anyway, he said they understood none of these things. And this saying was hid from them. Go ahead. Neither knew they the things which were spoken. Okay, so now they didn't understand this, did they?
Come on.
That the Son of Man had to die and rise the third day. Let's go again. Let's go to John the 2nd chapter. John 2. And we're going to pick it up at verse 12. John 2 and 12. Everybody got it? Amen. Go ahead and read that.
After this he went down to Capernaum. He and his mother and his brethren and his disciples. And they continued there not many days.
Go ahead.
And the Jews' Passover was at hand.
And the Jews' Passover was at hand. Go ahead.
And Jesus went up to Jerusalem. And found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep, and doves and changers of money sitting.
Now, you know, they're in the temple, you know, the Passover is at hand, and then they're in the temple selling oxen and sheep and doves and all this stuff, right? Go ahead.
15. And when he had made a scourge of small cords.
Now, look at what Jesus did. He sat down and made a whip. You understand? And when he had made a scourge of small cords, go ahead.
He drove them all out of the temple.
He drove them all out of the temple. You understand? Jesus sat down and made a whip and drove them out. See, everybody think Jesus was some type of pushover. You know, he walking around like, Jesus wasn't no chump.
Come on.
You know, he went to who in the synagogues? The Pharisees and the Sadducees, right? The priest and the high priest and everything, right? But you know, he got all these people in there selling, right? Along with them. Jesus sat down and made a whip and started whipping them out of there. Everybody think Jesus some type of pushover or something.
Teach.
Not right here, is he?
No, sir.
What verse you had?
The middle of 15.
Go ahead.
And he drove them all out of the temple.
How many did he drive out? All of them out of the temple. All of them. Go ahead.
And the sheep and the oxen and poured out the changers' money.
Look at that. He kicking
and
over
overthrew
tables.
the tables.
Turning over tables. Kicking them out, beating them with the whip. And then they asked the question. See, Jesus wasn't no chump, was he?
Come on, brother. No, sir.
He knew when to humble himself. And he knew when to get busy too, didn't he? And this was a time right here for him to get busy. And what they say? Go ahead. What did he say?
And said unto them that sold doves, take these things hence. Make not my Father's house a house of merchandise.
Now somebody need to be reading this. Because that's all we got now in the church today. Everybody's selling this and selling that, selling this. You understand? Making money off the church. Making money off the church. They selling all type of stuff in the church, right? Aren't they? And he said unto them, take these things hence. Make not my Father's house an house of merchandise. Go ahead and read.
17.
Uh-huh.
And his disciples remembered that it was written, the zeal of thine house hath eaten me up.
Uh-huh.
Then answered the Jews and said unto him, what sign showeth thou unto us?
You see that? They said, well, what kind of sign is this? He already showed you what it was. Get out my Father's house selling his merchandise. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Seeing that thou dost do these things. Excuse me.
Read it again.
Yes, sir. Seeing that thou dost these things.
Uh-huh.
Jesus answered and said unto them, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up.
Oh, well, wait a minute now. You see what he said? Because see, they thinking he's talking about a body. A building. That's what they think he's talking about. They think he's talking about a building. He said, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up.
That's right, brother.
So they think he's talking about a building right here. But Jesus is going to tell them, go ahead.
Verse 20.
Uh-huh.
Then said the Jews, 46 years was the temple in building.
Now he talking about, you done see what they say? You know, this building been in building for, we've been building this thing for 46 years. That's a long time to build a temple, ain't it? Mm-hmm. It must have been man's. Magnifico. 46 years to build it. He said, 46 years was this temple in building. Go ahead.
And wilt thou rear it up in 3 days?
He said, you're going to rear this thing up in 3 days? You're going to tear it down in 3 days? Go ahead and read.
But he spake of the temple of his body.
But he spake of the temple of his body. So he already told his apostles, I'm going to die and I'm going to be raised up in 3 days, didn't he? Now he's telling the Pharisees and the Sadducees here. He telling them, look, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. They like, you know what, this temple, we took 46 years to build it. You say you're going to rear it up in 3 days? He spake of the temple of his body, though. Mm-hmm. Now, let's go now. Let's go to Matthew, the 12th chapter. Now, Jesus is going to tell you plainly what 3 days he's talking about, or how he's going to get these 3 days. Let's go to Matthew, the 12th chapter. And this is plain right here. Matthew 12, and we're going to pick it up at verse 38. Matthew 12 and 38. Now he's going to tell you plainly about these 3 days. Everybody got it? Yeah. Go ahead.
Then certain of the scribes and of the Pharisees answered, saying, Master, we would see a sign from thee.
Because, you know, they always want to see a sign. You know, that's Israel. They don't see a sign, boy. They ain't going with it. You got to show me a sign first.
Come on, brother.
Go ahead and read.
Verse 39.
But
he answered and said unto them, an evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign.
Ooh, he said an evil and an adulterous generation seeketh after a sign. Go ahead.
And there shall no sign be given to it, but the sign of the prophet Jonas.
Go ahead.
For as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth.
Oh, you see how specific he being now? Because he said destroy this temple, and I'm going to raise it up in 3 days. But now he's being real specific now, ain't he?
Yes, sir.
He said the Son of Man, just as Jonah was in the belly of the whale, 3 days and 3 nights, so shall the Son of Man be in the heart of the earth. What? 3 days and 3 nights. That's 24 hours a day, ain't it? Because you got 12 hours a day, you got 12 hours in the night, don't you?
Yes, sir.
And the evening and the morning is the first day, ain't it?
That's
and
right.
The evening and the morning is the second day, and so on to the 7th day, right?
Make it plain.
And you got to have 24 hours in a day. 12 hours in a day, 12 hours in a night. And he's being very specific right here, because he knew that this man was going to get this thing wrong. He knew the man was going to get this thing wrong. Talking about he's going to be in the grave a day and a half. But he was very specific. What? He said 3 days and 3 nights. And a day consists of what? 24 hours.
Plain.
24 hours, 12 hours in the day, 12 hours in the night. That's why I went back there and read you all that about the evening and the morning was the first day. The third hour of the day, the third hour of the night. Because it's 24 hours in a day.
Yes,
he
sir.
said 3 days and 3 nights, didn't he?
He did.
Now how can you get that messed up? You understand what I'm saying? How could you get that messed up? Let's go to Mark, the 6th chapter. I'm sorry, Mark 16. Mark 16. And we're going to pick it up at verse 9. Because, people, and then they go read something like this and think they got something. See that? See? Mark 16 and 9. Everybody got it? Amen. Go ahead and read.
Now when Jesus was risen early the first day of the week.
See, now when Jesus was risen early the first day of the week, see, they think that, he rose the first day. See now, see? Y'all see, laughing on the phone at me and everything. Yeah, see, we got him now. I said, yeah, well, let's do some more reading. He said, now when Jesus was risen early the first day of the week, go ahead.
He appeared first to Mary Magdalene.
Uh-huh.
Out of whom he had cast 7 devils.
Now, if you didn't have no understanding, then you would believe that Jesus rose the first day of the week, wouldn't you?
Come on.
But he just continuing on the story. When Jesus was risen, early the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, out of whom he had cast 7 devils. He's just telling you what he did on the first day of the week. Ain't telling you that he rose on the first day of the week. I'm going to show you. But he's not telling you that he rose on the first day of the week. But if you wanted to, somebody didn't have some understanding, you want to get him, you can get him with this, couldn't you? Let's go now. Let's unravel this. First, let's go to Acts, the 12th chapter, and we're going to bring Easter on the scene because Easter is written in the Bible. But I'm going to show you, though, about this Easter that's written in the Bible.
Come on, bro.
Because people go, yeah, see, Easter. A guy called himself a prophet. He read this, Easter. You understand? He called himself a prophet. I ain't going to talk about nobody. Acts 12 and 1. Acts 12 and 1. And this is what they're going to be celebrating tomorrow too, ain't it? Easter. Easter all over the world is going to be Easter. Nobody wants to keep the Passover though, do they? The day that God commanded you to keep, nobody wants to do that. Everybody think we crazy for keeping the Passover. That's for the Jews. And then they look at y'all ain't no Jews. Why y'all keeping it? Acts 12 and 1. Acts 12 and 1. A lot of people don't even know this in the Bible.
Come on, bro.
But go ahead and read though. Acts 12 and 1. Go ahead.
Now about the time Herod the king stretched forth
You
his
understand? They
hand.
don't even know it's in the Bible, but they're just keeping it. Because somebody told them to keep it. But go ahead. Now about the time of Herod, the king stretched forth his hands. Go ahead.
To vex certain of the church.
Uh-huh.
He killed James, the brother of John, with the sword.
Uh-huh.
And because he saw it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also.
Uh-huh. See, they getting ready to kill Peter. But what happened? Go ahead.
Then were the days of unleavened bread.
Wait a minute now. We're in Acts, the 12th chapter. After Jesus died, he rose from the grave. He was here for 40 days, right? And then he ascended to the Father.
That's right.